Good evening, everyone. This week's discussion board asked you to take a look at the NSAW principles and make some analysis of how the various theories of human behavior are either in concert or against the principles that social workers abide by. And I always think this is a very interesting part of the course. Um, uh, and You're also reading about TANF, which replaced the old welfare system in 1996. And I think this is a great example to discuss the ways in which social work values, I think, are often corrupted by the very systems that we work in. So let's look at TANF for a second. It added work requirements and timelines that didn't used to be a part of the old welfare system. And it also basically made some value judgments about the people who were on the program. So, for instance, let's say you're an unmarried woman with children. You now have these job training / work requirements that you have to meet, in addition to deadlines for how long you can apply for assistance. If the father of your children, you're unmarried, if the father of your children cohabitates the home with you, you are in danger of losing your benefits. That's the way the new law was written. Now, let's say that the father of these children, whether he's working or not, is helping around the home, is providing care for his children, regardless of your marital status. In my eyes, from a social work standpoint, I would certainly think that that's important, to have the father playing a role in his children's lives, helping to manage the home, whether that's providing care while the mom looks for work or is at training, taking the kids to and from school, making meals, whatever it entails. In my eyes, whether or not you're married and whether or not that person is working, that relationship with the children, those interactions, the help it provides, those are all very important and worthwhile things. And to ultimately punish that family for not looking a certain way, not abiding by particular societal mores, to me, that seems to go against our clients' well-being, their rights, and ultimately is not in best interest of the family. Now imagine yourself, you're now a direct social worker, you're working for some state agency, CFSA maybe, and you have this situation. Two involved parents, regardless of marital status, cohabitating, caring for their children, but because of the rules that the agency must follow in order to maintain their funding and i.e., pay your paycheck, you must tell this father that he cannot be in the home. Is that in the best interest of the family? How do you square that with the ethics of being a social worker? How do you help families with the many resources that governments have, if at the same time you're getting them connected to food stamps or WIC or job training or whatever the various resources may be, at the same time you're telling that family, because you don't look a certain way, I'm going to disrupt you in order for you to get these benefits. To me, some of the theories of human behavior and organizations that guide our work and the organizations we work with are not necessarily reflected in the code of ethics that we take as social workers. And it leaves us in very difficult positions. How do we follow our code of ethics and at the same time work for agencies, organizations, with rules that may or may not be in conflict? How do you square that? And I think that's a very important question to ask yourselves as you move into the working world of social work. And I'm sure you all have seen or heard of other examples where what we're asked to do by the places that pay our salaries excuse me, appear to, again, not be in the best interest of our clients. So, I always like to bring that up. I think TANF is a really interesting piece of policy that is very challenging to, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat, is very challenging for social workers to deal with. There are definitely parts of that policy that are, I think, go against what we need to do to help our clients. So you don't need to do anything with this. I just wanted to offer those thoughts. I've been very, very disappointed and scared about that policy. There's a great Frontline does a lot of investigative reporting on various social issues. And about 10 years after TANF was instituted, they started tracking families who were still on and used to be on on welfare, or the new TANF legislation. And what they were finding, so what the official record shows is that fewer and fewer people are using TANF. And that's true mostly because of the time limits. They eventually can no longer apply for benefits. And the implication, at least from leadership of various social work organizations, was that people were doing better. And as Frontline investigated where these families were, what they found out was that that's not really the case. What's happening is that really we're developing a new underclass of poverty, right? People who are no longer eligible for benefits, um, and they are disappearing. Um, they they're no longer tracked by the welfare system. Um, they're no longer eligible for help, and we don't know where they've gone to. Um, so that's always been very terrifying to me. Um, especially as most of these people are families. They have children. Um, we don't know what's happened to them, and we don't know where they are. So I urge you to think about these things. And I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't work for CFSA or another government organization. We need social workers in those positions to use those resources to help people. I am suggesting that you think very seriously about how far you are willing to go to stand by the code of ethics, and what the possible consequences might be for you and your clients if you do or don't stand by your ethics when you inevitably face these situations, because you definitely will. And also to consider, I know this is human behavior, but I just want to make a quick segue into policy here. To also consider the importance of social workers working in the policy arena. Often the policies that are developed that have to do with social welfare are done by people who may have an academic understanding of the problems, but they're not necessarily thinking about, if we write this policy and it saves X amount of dollars, or it adheres to a particular political ideology, what does that mean for the people at the other end? And I think social workers often have a better handle on what are the real life consequences. So I encourage any of you who have any kind of interest in policy to think about how, and I think direct social, I know a direct social worker who does policy work. I think there are lots of ways to be involved, but I encourage you to think about how you can affect the policies, whatever level, whether it's micro or macro, have input and affect the policies that ultimately impact the people that we work for, our clients and their families. So, all right, well, that's all for tonight. The next 2 weeks are pretty busy in this class. I made a note on the announcement, but you have a number of discussion boards, plus your midterm, plus your reading, plus the videos. And remember to respond to 2 classmates. 100 words each, your responses. And you've got to do your presentations that go along with your midterm. So a lot of work to get done. I hope everybody has been working on this stuff, not saving it for the last minute, as I know often happens in graduate school. So that's it. Have a good night, everyone.